I recently had a client that came in to see me, and she said that she allowed DCF into her home. That was her first mistake. The second mistake was allowing DCF to speak to her children alone. And when the story came back with the 51A being supported against her for neglect, she was completely bullshit. I don't blame her. With that said, DCF then assigned an assessment worker who now wanted to come out to the house, view the home, view the children, speak to the mom, and go through the same dog and pony show again. And she came in and she says, I'm done. I'm completely done. I was honest, forthright, transparent with DCF, and they stuck it to me. And they stuck it to my kids. They're saying I'm a drunk and I don't feed my kids. And then she said, I'm Italian, Kevin. Have you ever been Italian and didn't like to cook? Ever? And I said, not really. He says, exactly. My kids are fed every night. I take great care of my kids. I put them before me. I said, what's this about alcohol? He said, that is just complete bullshit. I said, what makes you say that? She says, come to my home. I said, when's your next meeting? She says, next week. So I prepared her and the kids. When the assessment worker got there, I got out there early, went to her home, and she says, open up my cabinets. I started opening up her cabinets. I said, this is not good. She says, what do you mean? You got plenty of booze in here. She said, look at the bottles. So I look at the bottles. Every single one of the bottles was a gift, like a high school reunion gift, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. None of them had been opened. And the one that did, when I opened it up, it smelled from holy hell. It had to be 50 years old. She says, Kevin, you know something? I drink socially, but I've never drank any of those bottles. Those are all decorations. If you look at them, there's dust in there all over the bottles. They've never been opened. And she was absolutely, positively 100% correct. And I said, how the hell did they say this? She says, Kevin, I have a sister that I don't get along with. And I went to a Christmas party. And I wasn't driving, and I had a few too many drinks. And she called DCF on me. And my children were with who? They were with my mother. I said, where's your mother live? My mother lives on the first floor. I live on the second. So my mother was watching the kids that night because they fully knew I was going out and I was going to have some fun. I worked 6 days a week. This was my Christmas party. I go out once a year and hoop it up, and it's on my Christmas party. All types of food, all types of booze. I'm having a good time. Merry Christmas. I said, you damn Skippy, you should. And so they ratted her out, her sister, but they were trying to say she's drunk all the time. Because they asked the kids, did Ma come home, was she drunk? And the kids were honest. They said, yeah. But they never asked the next question, DCF. They shot first and asked questions later. They never asked who was caretaking for the children that night. And the answer's simple, the grandmother was. And the grandmother's a sweetheart. And all they had to do was go downstairs and ask the grandmother, were you babysitting for the kids on the Christmas party of such and such night? And the grandmother said, absolutely I was. And they stayed overnight. That's how simple this could have been. And instead, DCF now wants to do this big, elongated assessment. And I have this assessment worker sitting there asking all types of questions about all types of things. And it's all bogus. So I brought the kids downstairs, had them sit at the table, and had them tell this assessment worker about that Christmas party and where they were. And I brought the grandmother up from downstairs, and they spoke to the grandmother. And I had my client speaking to the social worker as well. Well, let's just say when all was said and all was done, DCF, much to their credit, unsupported, overturned and reversed the decision. There wasn't a neglect, there never has been any neglect, and she was responsible enough, my client, the one night of the year she goes out and hoops it up with food and booze. She wasn't driving, she had someone else drive, a designated driver, and she had her kids safely tucked away with her mother on the first floor. She couldn't have done a better job, she tried. She's over the age of 21. Who cares if she went out and had too much to drink? She wasn't driving. She didn't hurt anybody, she wasn't gonna harm anyone. And she earned the right to do that, in my humble opinion. And good for you, Mom. Good for you. Because she's a tremendous mom. The kids' grades were stellar. The kids played sports, they were cheerleaders, they were this, they were that. And everybody, everywhere, every place said the kids were up to date medically. The kids were doing everything they were supposed to do as teenagers. And the kids were never in trouble, never been arrested. No allegations of drugs or alcohol or anything like that. Just good kids. Just good kids. And the mother, by the way, you open up a refrigerator, oh my God. You've never seen so much pasta and meatballs and sausage and Italian food in your whole life. And she's a great cook, and everybody will corroborate that, and everybody did. So in the final analysis, DCF went home happy because they wanted to do the right thing, and they did do the right thing. And my client went home, and she was thrilled. Like just one of my favorite clients of all time because she was so funny. She just had such a great sense of humor. Instead of getting BS at DCF, she says, "You're not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to put up with this crap." And she was very honest with him and said, "You know, you made a mistake the first time. Let's get it right the second time." And I couldn't help but just laugh. I mean, she was hilarious. Come on, DCF, you got it wrong the first time. Let's get it right the second time. And good for DCF to understand and realize that they made mistakes. And they corrected them.